A routine inmate transfer ends when a transport bus slides off the road, crashing down a steep embankment into an isolated, fog-covered valley. Inmate Murphy Pendleton pulls himself from the debris, only to find he is still being monitored. Surviving corrections officer Anne Cunningham is already on his trail, driven by an obsessive need to hunt him down. As Murphy runs, the environment becomes hostile. In this town, the weather operates on a hair trigger. The moment it begins to rain, the water spawns grotesque, violent creatures that force Murphy to hide or fight to stay alive. This illustrates the mechanism of psychic projection. Internal guilt radiates outward to generate physical hazards, which then cycle back to hunt the visitor in a self-sustaining loop of penance. Murphy has traded a concrete cell for a psychological one, a customized purgatory built to extract a very specific kind of justice. Navigating the abandoned streets triggers hallucinations. Murphy is forced to live through vivid flashbacks that piece together exactly why he was in handcuffs to begin with. The origin of his sentence points back to a neighbor named Patrick Napier. Napier abducted and murdered Murphy's young son Charlie, fracturing Murphy's life and pushing him toward a calculated response. Murphy didn't end up in Ryle State Prison by accident. He stole a police cruiser to guarantee a conviction, securing a ticket into the exact same facility holding Napier. Once inside, Murphy struck a deal with a corrupt guard, George Sewell. Sewell unlocked the shower room doors and looked the other way, giving Murphy the time he needed to beat Napier to death. Silent Hill manifests this toxic violence as a creature called the Bogeyman. It stalks Murphy with a massive hammer, serving as a physical stand-in for Napier and Murphy's own murderous actions. Eventually, Murphy confronts and defeats the Bogeyman, but the town doesn't let him go. Balancing the moral ledger by executing his son's killer did nothing to resolve his grief, and his punishment continues. The town's relentless assault points to a second, unresolved nightmare holding him in place. George Sewell didn't open those shower doors out of charity. He demanded payment. During a planned prison riot, Sewell ordered Murphy to slip away and assassinate another target. That target was Frank Coleridge. Frank was the only ethical corrections officer on the cell block, and he was actively building a case to expose Sewell's illicit operations. The second debt takes the shape of the Wheelman. It is a gigantic, emaciated entity fused directly into a wheelchair, entirely dependent on life support tubes and blood bags. The atrophied limbs and whirring life support machines are precise reflections of a medical reality Murphy saw with his own eyes the night of the riot. Murphy's true anchor to Silent Hill is not the monster he killed to avenge his son. It is the innocent guard he was ordered to destroy. The pursuit reaches its breaking point. Officer Anne Cunningham finally corners Murphy, her weapon drawn and ready to fire. The truth is, Officer Frank Coleridge was Anne's father. Frank survived the riot attack, but the injuries left him in a permanent vegetative state. He spent his final days confined to a wheelchair on life support, the exact image of the Wheelman monster Murphy has been fighting. Anne has spent years operating under a single conclusion. She believes Murphy accepted Sewell's arrangement, took a weapon, and crippled her father to settle his shower room debt. This flowchart shows the gap between belief and reality. Sewell planned for Murphy to attack Frank, but Murphy refused, dropping his weapon. Instead, Sewell beat Frank into a coma himself, manipulating the crime scene and planting evidence to ensure Murphy took the fall. Anne and Murphy are two sides of the same manipulated coin. Sewell's corruption trapped them both in a shared delusion, pointing the grief and misdirected anger at each other. Faced with the reality of the framing, Anne makes a choice. She lowers her weapon and refuses to pull the trigger. The moment she lets go of her vengeance, the environment responds. The relentless rain stops, the dark clouds part, and sunlight cuts through the thick fog over the lake. The town releases its grip. Anne calls into her radio and officially reports Murphy Pendleton as a casualty of the bus crash. She grants him his freedom and pivots her sights toward the man who actually destroyed her family, George Sewell. Silent Hill leverages a person's deepest trauma to construct a custom-built prison, but when its victims actively choose truth and forgiveness over their thirst for vengeance, the psychological walls collapse and the cycle is finally broken.